provide you with a little bit of a status update, making a little bit of progress on the engine bay. ABS sensor wires have been pulled in through a rubber grommet on there, through a rubber grommet down there. Got a little bit more work to do on the wire harness. What I'm doing is I'm cleaning it up, and that's really a 3-step process. So I'm taking acetone, cleaning up the wire loom, all the overspray, any crud. A lot of that black crud that was in the engine bay is also on just the connectors and everything. So first step, acetone, clean everything off real good, get it nice and clean looking. Second step is put any tape on any of the wire harness that might be broken. The stuff I like to use is this Super 33. Let's see if I can get you a better view of that. Super 33 is good for hot and cold temps. Really high quality stuff. And then last step is I use some conditioner and try to recondition some of these plugs so they're not so brittle. Maybe make them last a little bit longer. Same thing with like all these little plastic connectors and stuff. Try to clean them up as good as I can. So still got a little bit more work to do there. We're gonna install this solid steering column bushing from Voodoo 13. Basically it just goes right here. You switch out the rubber one for this solid one. It's supposed to make the steering feel a little bit better. Jonah will be installing that a little bit later. Also I painted the covers. Later on I think I'll try to get some new ones, but just to make this one last a little bit longer, painted these, and I'll show you what I used to paint that. Actually painted quite a few things in the engine bay, horns, little brackets. I did the brake lines just to try to clean them up a little bit. Some of these other little metal brackets, cleaned them up, sanded them and painted them. The paint that I use, I like to use these two paints right here. Engine enamel, 500 degrees Fahrenheit, gas and oil resistant. And then the VHT roll bar and chassis, which is 250 degrees. Honestly, this will probably be good for anything that's not going on the block. But typically when I go to AutoZone, they only have a couple cans of each, so I just grab everything they have to knock it out. Painted the brake booster. Didn't come out perfect, but looks better than it did before. There's a little bit of dust in the paint, but overall not bad. Honestly, when it comes to painting and cleaning this stuff before assembly, I kind of wish I would have done it as soon as I pulled the stuff out, cleaned it up, painted it, and then packed it away so this reassembly would be much faster. Now it seems to be taking forever, but it is what it is, right? You could spend as much time as you want cleaning this stuff up, but really trying to get it back together as soon as possible. So repainting the brake booster. I'm gonna cut a new gasket. So here's the old gasket. As you can see, it's all broken. What I like to do is I like to buy the Felt Pro kit. 3060. It comes with all these different ones, and it'll tell you what they recommend, whether it be oil, coolant, gasoline, water, which one to use. So I'll cut that gasket later. I mean, you could buy the gasket. I'm not even sure if this one is available anymore, but to save time for myself, what I simply do is I'll take the old gasket, slap it on here, trace it, and then take an X-Acto knife and cut it out. So where the AC coolant line drains, I got this vacuum elbow and this grommet. So what I'm gonna do is, as you can see on the old one here, I'll show it to you. It's kind of trashed. See that right there? So you can buy one for, I think, right-hand drive, but you can't get one for left-hand drive. It's no longer available. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna jam this up in there, and then I'm gonna cut a hole in the middle of this grommet so it fits, and so that's how I'll repair that. Cleaned up you can see how nice the ABS lines came out. I thought about retaping them all in yellow tape, but honestly, I think it's pretty good. Not too worried about it. Brake lines, these were a pain in the ass. I saw some other people that put a fire sleeve on them to cover them up. And I thought about doing that, but honestly, just trying to get the car together. And I think the paint, while it's not perfect, I think it's going to be okay. So, but it was not easy because the stuff, whatever that stuff is that's on there, it's hard to sand off from the factory, and yeah, the paint doesn't really go down super smooth on it. So if I've had more time and money with this project, I would probably drop them off to be powder coated or something like that, or maybe bend new ones, which is always something that you could do. Also did the horns and these brackets right here, painted them all up, and then cleaned up the reservoirs so they're ready to go back in. These brackets, sanded them, painted them so they look better. This bracket too, a couple of these other little brackets. Honestly, probably be better to zinc plate them, but I'm just trying to get this thing knocked out. So I sanded them. I used a 360 grit, cleaned it up real good, and then sprayed a coat of paint on them. And then with these heat shields, I thought about painting them, but honestly, they look pretty good brushed aluminum, so I just scrubbed them and brushed them, cleaned all the crud. They were pretty bad. They had all kinds of corrosion and gunk on them. So now they're nice and clean. We'll reinstall those. Pro tip, take Q-tips and clean out all the plugs in here before you plug it back up, so that way you know it's clean. Another thing too that I'm doing, highly recommend you do, pick up a grommet kit with all different size grommets, big, small. I've got a whole bunch of these, and I always end up using them. And then also, I got a lot of stainless steel hardware. So, well, most of it's stainless steel. Some of it is just grade 8 bolts. So picked all this stuff up from AutoZone and Lowe's. So the stainless steel stuff, Lowe's always seems to have a better selection of hardware. Definitely recommend going to Lowe's over Home Depot, at least in my area. Picked up a lot of M6x1, got a bunch of different lengths, got washers, got lock washers, got nuts, and then I also picked up a lot of plastic grommets, because I know there's various sizes, and once I figure out what sizes work, I'll probably write it down so that way I know what size work. Also, yeah, cleaned up some of these plastic pieces. Again, anything that's rubber, I try to recondition it as good as I can, right? So this right here, this stuff has been sitting in some this stuff right here. It's called 303 rubber seal protectant. I use this stuff on my RX-7. It worked pretty good, so I'm using it on this Z. What I'll do is I'll clean it up real good with some, I'll clean the rubber plastic up with some all-purpose cleaner, Purple Power, I think is the stuff I use, and then let it dry. Get it soaked in this, let that stuff sit for like 12 hours, and then hit it with some McGuire's VLR at the end to just give it extra shine. So that usually works pretty good. So here's all the pieces that are going to go around that wire harness, and I think these pieces go towards the bottom of the car. They get some more wire loop stuff. So that's an update. I'll keep you updated as we continue to get progress going.
Headlight for the Z. As you can see, it's all crusty and broken. It was held in there by like a bunch of exhaust hangers for some reason, and it's all like dry rotted. There's overspray on there, I think, and it's just gross. There's this crud on it. It's nasty.
I think it's like anti-rust coating or something.
And so we got, this is the old driver's side one, and we scrubbed it with a wire brush and cleaned it up. And then this is a used one we got off the Concept Z, and you painted all this stuff.
I actually got it from eBay.
I
took it completely apart, painted all these metal pieces, scrubbed it up real good. Put some rust protectant on some of these screws and stuff that are rusting.
And there's some like dust in there that we're trying vacuum out, and then we're gonna put this rubber conditioning stuff on
Yeah,
the
what we'll do
seals.
is we'll take a vacuum hose and then stick a tiny silicone hose in there and try to suck out all that dust.
And then to mount them in, we have these foam things from Concept Z that kind of seal it, I guess.
Give them a nice little cushion. I don't know what they're for, honestly, but. All right, so not completely done, but pretty close. Just want to point out a few things that I did to the firewall. So I tried to scrub and clean everything as I put it back. These brass fittings right here, I kind of just brushed them up. I think it looks pretty cool with the black, red, and the kind of gold that the brass brings. These lines right here, if you try to paint them, it doesn't really work too well. I painted a couple of them. I painted this one down here, and one on the other side, and the finish is kind of meh, but you know, it looks better than it did before. We made our own battery tray bracket, and again, apologies I didn't show that, but honestly, this has been like a week and a half worth of work, and filming it would have taken even longer, and I was just trying to get it done. So basically, I just took a cardboard cereal box, made a template using this. This is the factory bracket. Made a template cut out of aluminum, and then drilled the holes. And then on the back side of the firewall, there's 3 rib nuts that this bolts into to hold it. So I think it's pretty sturdy. Not sure how thick this aluminum is. It's just some stuff I had laying around. I also repainted the bracket. I painted the this horn. I think it might be an alarm horn. I made a new ground wire for it. I'm not sure if you can see that. And then all new stainless steel hardware and everything. So hopefully it won't corrode again. Over here's the finished product for our drain hose. I think it looks pretty good. Finished product. And then with these right here, these are all aluminum, so I just cleaned them up and then kind of brushed them a little bit. But this one right here is actually steel, so I went ahead and painted it. Again, not the best paint job, but something heat resistant, something that makes it look a little bit better. Over here, I installed the Z32 bushing. It was harder than what the instructions kind of had laid out. In order to do this, you need to have you need to be able to push or have a press. So I ended up having to use the press to press. There's little metal bearings in there to press them into the solid one. But got it taken care of. Got it in there, and then also the bolts that were in here before were kind of junk, so I got new bolts, new hardware in there. Down here on the firewall, again, brushed this aluminum up, bolted it down with new hardware. Here's the other line that I painted black. Rerouted all this stuff, and as you're looking at this stuff, if I have it routed incorrectly, please let me know. I did the best I could off the photos I took. In hindsight, I wish I would have taken better photos. But got my brake booster brace in there, got the brake booster in there, cleaned it up as good as I could. New bolts and hardware throughout. Painted this again. It didn't come out perfect, but it definitely looks better than it did before. We still have a little bit more work to go. And then also threw the headlights in. There's John. That was a lot of fun. We actually, one of the bolts broke because it was so rusted, so ended up having to drill out the bolt, clean up the threads, and then put a new bolt in there. So I'm gonna save the radiator for I'm gonna save putting the radiator in for after we put the motor in. I think I'm like maybe 80% done. What do you think with the engine bay?
I say like 70, 75, because we still have to put the engine in, work out all the kinks with the engine.
Yeah, just the engine bay. I'm talking about just the engine bay.
Oh, the engine bay.
Yeah, because this engine bay I feel like was more work than rebuilding an engine. Just
that's true.
Taking everything out and putting it all back in,
scrubbing it, painting it.
Yeah, and I still haven't even hit this up yet. So they painted underneath it. They painted the whole thing red, which as you can see now, you can see red behind it, and it should be black. So I got to fix that. I got to put the molding back here. But honestly, I want to stop working on this. I want to work on the motor a little bit more. So I'm calling it quits on this thing for right now. Taking a break. think we made some really good progress over the past week and a half. And once we put the motor together and get it like close to where we can put it back in, then we can retackle this. And I don't think it'll be that bad. We'll just have to clean up the, power steering lines a little bit. We're not putting AC back in this car. Sorry, Jonah. I just don't have time or money for it, but maybe later we'll throw the AC back in it. But I am putting power steering back in. And I know there's some routing I'm going to have to do with the intercooler piping, so if you got any input on that, because this thing was NA, now it's going to be twin turbo. So we do have twin turbo radiator shroud, and I've got Z1 intercooler piping kit and intercooler, so we'll have to hang those, route all that. So yeah, we got a lot of work ahead of us still, but I think really good progress in just a week and a half. So right now we're just gonna probably bleed the brakes a little bit, put wheels on it, roll it outside, and then bring the RX-7 back in, because the RX-7 is cold sitting outside. So hopefully you enjoyed this update on the engine bay, and we'll see you next time.